Millions consume synthetic pre-workout supplements every single day. They believe these toxic chemicals optimize their physical performance. This is a massive, highly engineered biological lie. The modern fitness industry profits from mass neurological destruction. They actively hide the severe clinical cost of artificial stimulants. A daily scoop of pre-workout creates a severe biological crisis. This chemical cocktail literally fries the human central nervous system. The exact biological mechanism destroying neural pathways is actively suppressed. Mainstream supplement empires bury this clinical data daily. The window to reverse this severe neurological damage is closing rapidly. Ignoring these next clinical minutes guarantees permanent biological brain rot. Elite human performance requires a naturally dominant, highly energized brain. Synthetic gym supplements destroy that exact vital biological hardware completely. Time is rapidly running out to fix this induced metabolic disaster. Modern gym culture worships artificial, forced daily energy spikes. Society falsely equates chemical stimulation with elite iron discipline. This is a dangerous, highly manufactured, and toxic biological illusion. The human brain manages daily metabolic energy with extreme precision. It requires natural, uninterrupted biological rhythms to function perfectly. Severe chemical stimulation violently disrupts this essential neurological energy supply. When the physical body is exhausted, it demands parasympathetic recovery. The brain naturally slows down to repair torn muscle tissue. It shifts into a necessary, restorative, and quiet biological state. Consuming high-stimulant pre-workouts aggressively, forcefully overrides this natural healing process. The brain is violently hijacked by synthetic, unregulated chemical compounds. Fluid intelligence drops significantly under this artificial chemical assault. Short-term memory fragments completely inside a constantly overstimulated neural network. Elite focus shatters into pieces under chronic sympathetic nervous system stress. The aesthetic physical peak becomes an absolute cognitive rock bottom. Elite fitness influencers secretly suffer from extreme, crushing mental exhaustion. They look physically invincible outside but decay rapidly inside. This is the dark neuroscience of modern gym supplements. Fitness models constantly hide their overwhelming, chronic daily brain fog. They cannot read complex books or execute deep, strategic work. Their neural pathways are actively burning out from severe overstimulation. The illusion of perfect energy masks a terrifying biological reality. Forcing extreme physical performance while exhausted destroys the nervous system. The human body treats this chemical spike as a lethal threat. Every biological system downgrades to basic, primitive survival protocols immediately. Cognitive expansion stops completely under this heavy chemical burden. The individual becomes a biological zombie running on toxic powder. They trade their cognitive supremacy for a cheap adrenaline spike. The biological tax for this vanity is severe neurodegeneration. How artificial energy fries your nervous system. Synthetic energy is a total, mathematically proven biological illusion. Pre-workout supplements do not provide genuine, usable cellular metabolic energy. They operate strictly as violent, aggressive chemical nervous system hijackers. The primary active ingredients are massive doses of synthetic caffeine. Caffeine provides absolutely zero real caloric or cellular energy. It operates strictly as a highly aggressive adenosine receptor antagonist. Adenosine is the natural neurochemical that signals biological fatigue. It tells the human brain that the physical body requires sleep. Pre-workout violently blocks these essential adenosine receptors completely. The brain is artificially tricked into a fake, panicked wakefulness. The physical body remains deeply exhausted and structurally damaged. However, the central nervous system is forced to fire rapidly. This creates a terrifying, highly destructive biological paradox. The engine is completely out of gas but forced to redline. Biological response is both immediate, violent, and highly devastating. The human body enters a forced, unnatural, violent sympathetic state. The hypothalamus detects this artificial stimulation as an incoming predator. It triggers a cascading, systemic, and violent hormonal panic response. The brain literally believes the physical body is facing death. It desperately hunts for alternative internal fuel sources just to survive. This forces billions of delicate neurons to operate in pure panic. The adrenal glands are forcefully commanded to pump toxic cortisol. This massive cortisol dump floods the entire human bloodstream rapidly. Heart rate variability plummets as the autonomic nervous system locks up. The body is trapped in a permanent fight-or-flight biological response. This is not elite discipline. It is self-inflicted structural brain damage. The nervous system literally fries under this chronic, daily assault. The electrical signals moving through the neural pathways become chaotic. Inflammation markers skyrocket across the entire central nervous system immediately. The biological cost of a heavy deadlift is invisible cognitive decline. Every single scoop of pre-workout starves the prefrontal cortex further. The brain cannot execute friction-free work while drowning in cortisol. Willpower cannot override millions of years of evolutionary survival programming. The panicked brain forces human attention toward immediate physical threats. It completely blocks the biological capacity for abstract, long-term strategic thought. The aesthetic obsession destroys the biological capacity to generate wealth. A fried prefrontal cortex cannot hold attention on complex financial data. The modern pre-workout routine engineers a weak, easily distracted mind. The individual feels productive simply because they lifted heavy weights. Meanwhile, their actual cognitive machinery is rusting and actively failing. The brain misinterprets the chemical spike as a literal physical attack. The biological cost of daily chemical spikes. Consuming artificial chemical spikes daily guarantees severe biological consequences. The human blood-brain barrier is an incredibly delicate vital membrane. It protects the brain from toxic pathogens and systemic inflammation. Modern pre-workout supplements contain highly unregulated, aggressive chemical compounds. These include extreme doses of artificial sweeteners, dyes, and synthetic stimulants. When consumed daily, these toxic chemicals aggressively assault the gut microbiome. The gut microbiome is directly connected to the human brain. This connection operates through the highly sensitive vagus nerve pathway. Destroying the gut lining creates immediate, severe systemic biological inflammation. This inflammation travels directly upward into the central nervous system. The blood-brain barrier slowly begins to weaken and physically degrade. Toxic metabolic waste freely enters the delicate neural networks daily. The human brain literally marinates in a highly toxic chemical soup. This causes severe, compounding oxidative stress deep within the brain. Microglia are the essential immune cells of the human brain. Under normal conditions, they quietly clean metabolic waste from neurons. However, toxic pre-workout chemicals forcefully mutate the microglia's biological behavior. They become hyperactive, aggressive, and highly destructive immune agents. Instead of cleaning the brain, they start attacking perfectly healthy neurons. This is severe neuroinflammation driven directly by the modern supplement industry. The individual falsely thinks they are building an unstoppable elite mindset. Biologically, they are aggressively inducing early-onset neurodegeneration and chronic fatigue. The human nervous system begins to literally short-circuit and fail entirely. Neuroelectrical processing slows down dramatically due to severe oxidative damage. Thoughts become incredibly sluggish and highly difficult to properly organize. Reaction times plummet to embarrassing, heavily delayed biological levels. Severe brain fog becomes a permanent, daily, inescapable biological reality. This is the unglamorous, terrifying biological cost of artificial gym energy. Men destroy their natural dopamine baseline and their brain mass simultaneously. This lethal secret is heavily guarded by the billion-dollar supplement industry. They sell toxic powders while intentionally hiding the structural brain damage. The physical ideal marketed to young men is a neurological nightmare. The human body is not a machine to be endlessly abused. It is a highly sensitive biological organism demanding strict equilibrium. When violently forced out of equilibrium, the brain pays the ultimate price. The blind pursuit of the perfect workout inevitably destroys the perfect mind. The central nervous system completely fries under this relentless daily pressure. Neural pathways literally burn out entirely from chronic, forced overstimulation. Extreme physical discipline rapidly mutates into severe, irreversible biological punishment. Why synthetic stimulants destroy your dopamine? The human dopamine system is extremely fragile and easily destroyed. Dopamine is the molecule of motivation, drive, and intense focus. It dictates human ambition and the capacity to execute hard work. Healthy dopamine release requires massive physical effort and biological friction. The brain rewards the human body only after completing difficult tasks. Pre-workout supplements completely hack and destroy this natural biological process. They forcefully flood the brain with massive, unearned dopamine spikes. Drinking a sweet chemical powder requires absolutely zero physical effort, yet the brain registers a massive, intense, and highly unnatural reward. This artificially decouples dopamine from actual physical or mental achievement. The brain receives the biological reward before the workout even begins. Over time, the central nervous system detects this toxic overstimulation. The brain is highly intelligent and aggressively protects its chemical equilibrium. To survive the daily chemical flood, the brain executes biological downregulation. It actively destroys its own dopamine receptors to reduce the noise. This is a terrifying, highly permanent biological defense mechanism entirely. The shredded individual literally loses the physical biological capacity to feel joy. Dopamine receptors require abundant metabolic energy to synthesize and bind properly. Chemical overstimulation blocks this entire neurochemical process from happening naturally. The individual achieves their absolute dream physique but feels completely dead. They suffer from severe, clinically induced limbic anhedonia every single day. The pleasure and motivation centers of the brain physically shut down entirely. Natural motivation evaporates completely from their daily human experience. Basic daily discipline requires monumental, exhausting, and highly painful conscious effort. They become biologically dependent on the toxic pre-workout powder just to function. Without the chemical spike, they cannot gather the energy to work. They achieve their fitness goals but become slaves to a plastic tub. This is limbic depression engineered directly by the fitness supplement industry. The aesthetic goal becomes an inescapable, miserable, and highly toxic biological prison. The body looks ready for war, but the mind is completely dead. The supplement industry profits endlessly from this exact cycle of misery. They sell the cure to the exact disease they actively engineered. Keeping men obsessed with artificial energy keeps them cognitively incredibly weak. A cognitively weak man cannot challenge the financial or social status quo. Their brain simply refuses to run high-level, complex human software. They are trapped inside a chemically induced, low-level biological loop forever. The hidden cause of chronic gym brain fog. Chronic gym brain fog is a severe, highly misunderstood biological epidemic. Millions of young men walk around completely unable to focus properly. They stare at computer screens with thick, sluggish, and paralyzed minds. They falsely attribute this exhaustion to hard work and extreme discipline. The actual biological truth is far darker and highly disturbing. Their prefrontal cortex is actively shutting down to survive the chemical assault. Elite cognitive function relies entirely on a foundation of absolute biological safety. The brain must feel completely secure to perform deep, uninterrupted work. Daily high-stimulant consumption mathematically signals a severe, life-threatening famine environment. The brain misinterprets the massive heart rate spike as physical danger. It locks the autonomic nervous system in sympathetic fight-or-flight mode permanently. The human operating system downgrades to its absolute most primitive biological level. It only thinks about immediate physical survival and conserving basic energy. Chemically dependent man simply cannot outwork a fully natural competitor mentally. The natural calm brain processes complex data variables at extreme lightning speeds. The overstimulated fried brain processes basic data through thick biological mud. This clearly explains the secret silent depression behind elite physical physiques. They possess zero biological energy for genuine joy, creativity, or extreme ambition. Artificial chemical energy is a direct, paved path to modern intellectual poverty. The hippocampus, responsible for memory consolidation, shrinks rapidly under high cortisol. Learning new, complex skills becomes a literal, physical, biological impossibility. Men forget basic vocabulary and struggle to articulate simple human concepts. They cannot maintain deep conversations because their attention span is shattered. The brain is entirely too busy managing the violent, internal chemical storm. Toxic byproducts from artificial energy drinks accumulate rapidly inside the skull. The lymphatic system, responsible for cleaning the brain, cannot keep up. It only operates properly during deep, restorative, high-quality human sleep. Pre-workout chemicals violently destroy deep sleep architecture and delta wave production. The brain never fully cleans itself of the toxic metabolic waste. This guarantees chronic, compounding, and highly destructive daily brain fog. The fitness influencer cannot compete in the modern intellectual arena whatsoever. Their brain is entirely too busy fighting off perceived daily chemical threats. They are biologically locked out of the elite flow state entirely forever. The flow state absolutely requires a deeply relaxed, fully nourished parasympathetic nervous system. Artificial energy guarantees a constant, highly stressful sympathetic biological overdrive. The individual trades their long-term cognitive intelligence for a short-term muscle pump. How to reclaim your natural biological energy. Reclaiming absolute cognitive dominance requires completely abandoning the modern toxic illusion. The true global elite optimize solely for maximum neural horsepower, not stimulation. The brain absolutely requires deep biological calm to function brilliantly and flawlessly. Returning to a natural, highly stable biological baseline is absolutely mandatory immediately. This stops the violent neural inflammation and microglial attacks instantly. The individual must violently throw the synthetic pre-workout supplements in the trash. Chronic chemical stimulation must be eliminated to reduce toxic daily cortisol spikes. Vagus nerve must be activated daily to enter deep parasympathetic recovery. This rapidly flushes toxic metabolic waste completely from the fragile neural pathways. Executive function returns rapidly once the artificial chemical flood finally ends. The prefrontal cortex physically expands back to its optimal, powerful, dominant size. Deep focus becomes entirely frictionless, automatic, highly sustainable, and incredibly sharp. Memory retention sharpens immediately to elite, highly competitive global standards. The modern human being must deliberately choose between chemical dependence or cognitive supremacy. The highest global earners always prioritize their central nervous system above cheap aesthetics. True modern power is strictly mental, not merely physical, artificial, or muscular. Rebuilding the shattered dopamine baseline requires totally abandoning the extreme fitness cult. It requires treating the brain like an elite, highly protected biological sanctuary. Natural energy must be cultivated through deep sleep, sunlight, and proper hydration. The brain will slowly upregulate its dopamine receptors over time through extreme discipline. The capacity for profound joy and relentless motivation will naturally return entirely. The dependence on synthetic powders will be replaced by unshakable biological stamina. This clinical breakdown sets the required theoretical foundation for your biological recovery. However, theoretical knowledge without exact tactical execution guarantees absolute mathematically certain failure. The exact step-by-step clinical resources required to rebuild your neural pathways exist. They are located directly in the description below this video right now. Subscribe to this channel immediately to join the absolute minority operating at peak biological performance. Stop trading your cognitive longevity for a fake, toxic daily adrenaline spike. The window of opportunity to reverse this specific neural damage is closing fast. Reclaim your shattered nervous system today before the biological damage becomes permanent.